All right, ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to Level Up Grappling Podcast. This is your host, Coach Brian, straight out of PCI Jiu-Jitsu, Mission Viejo, California. So we have a guest today that you have heard him before. You have seen him wreck shop on the mats, and we have him back again. Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu Black Belt, catch wrestling champion, amazing doctor of physical therapy, Stephen Ramos. My man, thanks for coming back on. And
Hey, thanks
welcome
for
back
having
to
me
the
back.
show. So we have a lot to catch up with you. So a lot has changed since we had you on last. Number one, you are officially now, like I said, doctor of physical therapy. So congratulations to you on that. That's a
Thank you
huge
very
honor.
much.
So that program must have been pretty intense, huh?
Definitely took up a lot of my life, and I'm good. It's fine. I dedicated myself to it for a few years. Unfortunately, I wasn't able to train at the level that I was prior to entering school, but that was expected. And now that I'm working full time, I'm just working on finding the balance where I can train at a high level again and continue working.
Well, I think we should also qualify, though, your idea of training at a high level is a very high level. Because I still believe even if you were training part-time, you'd basically smoke everybody on the mat, because I've seen you go in person. I know what you're capable of. So when you were finishing the program, you were still able to get on the mat at least a little bit, right?
So I believe we talked in February of last year. So that
Yeah.
was when I was still in the classroom. So when I was in the classroom, I was able to do training quite a bit. But between May and December, we have what are called internships or clinical rotations, they call them. And basically, it's just you have to work for free essentially for 40, 45 plus hours a week at different physical therapists, clinics, and inpatient. And that was very time consuming because at the same time that you're putting in those hours working, you're also studying for the board exam. So essentially from
Oh my
May to
God.
December, I was just scraping by, trying to train when I could. I was lucky if it was once a week, the hours I was putting in studying for that exam.
Wow. That's crazy. So now completing the Doctor of Physical Therapy program, I've got a lot of questions because, like we were talking about before we started recording, I feel like there's a lot of people out there, they try to help grapplers, but they don't know grappling, right? So they may be doing physical therapy, but they're not grapplers. So they don't really understand that connection and what works best. And given the fact that you are at such a high level that you are as a competitor, and as a, submission grappling master, and now having that doctor of physical therapy, walk us through, because I get these questions a lot in terms of people asking me or hitting me up online. Hey coach, what do you think is the best way I can train? Or I'm having this issue. I'm hurt here. I'm hurt there. Walk us through what we should be doing, because I think a lot of us are making mistakes, and you're the only guy or one of the few guys that are going to know exactly what we should and should not be doing to maximize our health on the mat. So walk us through the beginning from how should we be taking care of our bodies, stretching, how should we be handling injuries? Start us from the beginning.
Sure. I mean, jujitsu, I'm sure you've heard, grappling in general, but jujitsu specifically, I've heard referred to as involuntary yoga. Have you ever heard that?
Yeah.
So it's so true because, you have someone twisting you up like a pretzel. And if you're not flexible enough as is, you're going to tap so much earlier. I mean, we're not even talking about putting ligaments at their end stress ranges or anything like that. So mobility is always going to be number one. If you're inflexible and you're in grappling, that's a tough place to be in. I do see it as mobility and strength as a spectrum. So the stronger you are, generally, the less mobile you are. And the more mobile you are, generally, the less strong you are. So for me, it was always about finding this happy medium where I'm very flexible, but yet I'm also very strong. You know, I'm not overly strong and I'm not overly mobile. So I think a lot of people like to skip warm ups, and that's not great. You know, you do want to warm your body up before you start taking it to that level. I think stretching is huge. Yoga, generally, again, like there's always exceptions to this, but men are typically stronger and women are typically more flexible. The
Right.
problem is you have a lot of women who like to do yoga and not strength train, and you have a lot of men who like to strength train and not do yoga. It's the complete opposite. For the most part, men should be doing more yoga and women should be doing more strength training. So that way we're all kind of going towards equilibrium instead of further away from it. So
Interesting.
setting ourselves, yeah, setting our bodies up to have a fighting chance in the beginning, that's always going to be number one. So like before we even get to grappling, is our body ready for grappling? That's always going to be the biggest one right off the bat.
Hmm. So, how do we build a program? Let's say, as an example, I'm a 20 something year old blue belt, purple belt. Obviously, I want to have longevity in the art or sport. Maybe I'm starting to compete. How do I build a program for myself prior to getting on the mat, say the day of, before practice, after practice, on days I'm not training? What would be the ideal, you know, off the mat program?
Sure. So it's always going to come down to what your body needs. Like we're they're very all encompassing things that we need. Like, you know, our shoulders do certain motions like internal rotation, external rotation, flexion,
Right.
extension, abduction, adduction. Do we have those range of motions or are we limited? Same thing with our hips. We have internal, external, abduction, adduction. Like just assessing ourselves and seeing what is needed is very important. If you don't know, like if you're not testing yourself to see what you're limited in and what you're not limited in, you're just guessing. So it's very helpful to have someone assess you and see your body specifically because then you can just make the most of your time. We all have limited time as is. So it's hard to build a program that's the same for everyone. You want to get down to the nitty gritty of what you specifically need to save yourself time and effort. But in a general standpoint, you want to do dynamic warm ups before you train. So no static stretching. It's not that static stretching is bad. It's just that it could minimize your power output, which you don't necessarily want to do right before a competition or right before a hard practice. So
Mm.
static stretching is always good, like after training, and dynamic stretching is always good before. Make sure that you're not doing a heavy strength training session right before practice or anything like that. Again, you're going to limit yourself. So it's really about the timing of how you put your program together. I mean, that's why strength and conditioning coaches get paid so much money because there's a very specific science to the programming aspect. Generally, you want to like strength train hard on days where you're not training, train on your hard days, you know, but then you got to work recovery into it. So are you training 3 days a week? Are you training 5 days a week? It's very, very niche, and like putting it together is a science in itself.
So, walk me through the ideal, say, the dynamic stretching. What would that look like?
Sure, for dynamic stretch, I mean, the way I like to think about it, at least in one aspect, is what submissions am I going to get hit in? You know, like
Mm.
Kimuras, Americanas, just making sure that you touch end range in your own body before someone else tries to push you to end range. So
Mm.
even just kind of doing like fans with your arms, kind of like giving yourself, if you think of it that way, like a Kimura or an Americana, just as a way to like get your shoulder ready for the torque that's about to be put on it potentially. Same thing with your hips, like just opening and closing the door is one of my favorites. Like kicking very high up, reaching for your foot, like Frankenstein's. Basically, just getting everything to end range, just touch and go. There's also something called ballistic stretching where you're almost like bouncing. That's
Mm.
not particularly recommended just because that could put a lot of strain on the muscle and the tendon. But in terms of dynamic stretching, just being able to touch end range, like I kick my leg as high as it can. Not violently or anything like that, but I am kicking as high as I can in a nice, slow, controlled fashion, and then progressively getting faster, and then you're good to go. I also think there's a lot of value in doing forward rolls and backward rolls, especially in jiu-jitsu and wrestling and judo. A lot of schools skip the rolls, and I understand, you only have so much time for different things, but I do see value in being able to forward roll and kind of do these gymnastic-esque movements because a lot of times we're being thrown to the mat, and you got to learn how to tuck and roll.
Absolutely. Yeah, that's something that I've noticed. I get people that come in and visit me all the time from different schools. And the first thing I ask them is, do you know how to fall? I'd basically say 90% do not.
Right.
So teaching them how to take a bump, hit a break fall, how to tuck their chin, how to roll over their shoulder. These are things that it is really surprising to me people don't know how to do. And I agree with you that to me, this should be the foundation. It's just like, what are you doing rolling through a whole bunch of moves if your students don't first know how to take care of their body? Right? Because I think that's where injuries happen.
Definitely. I mean, speaking of injuries, like I have seen so many people who are getting thrown, and mid throw, what do? They plant, they base their arm out, and they destroy their shoulder because
Yeah.
they just instinctively do that, where it's like, if you had trained that, do not post as you're getting thrown. You're gonna really hurt yourself. Like I've seen so many shoulder dislocations, torn ligaments there. It's like they do more damage to themselves trying to prevent the movement. It's like just tuck and roll and then, re-guard, fight from there. But when you're mid-air and you're afraid of landing on your face, and you plant your hand instead, it's like the answer is not to plant your hand, it's to tuck your chin and roll so you don't land on your head.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, it's one of those things that I think that should be the foundation of how people learn. Interestingly, last year I was doing physical therapy on my shoulders because I had the MRIs and everything. I've had torn rotator cuffs for like 30 years. And when the last MRIs I did, I had the torn rotator cuffs on both shoulders and also had slap tears in both arms, right? And so for the most part, I could barely lift my arms up. So everything I did was incredibly painful. No matter what I did, it was incredibly painful. And I had done PRP a couple times, and it helped. And so I had done the PRP in conjunction with the physical therapy, and the physical therapist was really surprised at how well I was doing, because he said, if I saw your MRIs before we did physical therapy, I would have told you that I wouldn't see you until after surgery because of how bad your shoulders were. He's like, but I'm really surprised how well you're coming along. And then I went to the doctor, and when he saw my progress, he's like, you're actually getting better progress with your methodology than what I could do with surgery. And I was surprised to hear that too, because I did, like I said, I did the PRP, I did the physical therapy, and I also started doing peptides. So fast forward to March of 25, I found a place here in Orange County called Rejuve Anti-Aging. They hooked me up with an amazing deal. So they did the PRF, which was that platelet-rich fibrin, stem cells, and exosomes in both shoulders. And the hardest part was they said, okay, you can't wrestle for a month. I'm like, what? They're like, you can, like, we don't want you doing anything. We don't want you lifting. We don't want you doing anything. I'm like, well, why? They're like, because it's attacking the inflammation. The stuff is working the inflammation where you have the biggest issue. And if you start creating inflammation in other places, it's going to take away the benefits. I'm like, okay. And still I was doing the peptides with that in conjunction. So I noticed like with my left shoulder, it started recovering faster. And I was still feeling some pain in my right shoulder. And I said to this guy, Jason Hughes, who runs Rejuve. And I was just like, he had asked me like 2 months after, he's like, how are you feeling? I go, my left shoulder feels a lot better. I don't think anything happened with my right shoulder. And basically, he was like, oh, well, maybe we need to do it again. I'm like, yeah, okay, maybe I can come in and do it again. Then, like a month or so after that, the pain in my right shoulder went away. I just woke up one day and there was no pain in either shoulder. I was like, huh, this is really weird. And then so I'm like back to my like a very small weightlifting routine, nothing crazy. I just primarily compound exercises just to get my body, I have my Bulgarian bag that I use, my mace bell and all this stuff that I do. And, now the pain, I'm functional in both shoulders and arms, which I literally haven't been in years. And it was surprising. Now, of course, I'm not doing anything crazy. I'm not sitting here going, okay, I'm going to wrestle like a 20-year-old again. Not happening. It's never going to happen. But the fact that I can lift my arms over my head now, remarkable. The fact that I can sleep without pain and, my arms, my shoulders aren't like aching because I would never be able to sleep through the night because I'd be in so much pain. Regardless of the physical therapy exercises I was doing, yes, it was building up slowly, but I would still always have that pain. And I was just like, well, I still got to teach. So I have to be on the mat. I just had to be really careful with everything that I was doing. So for me, I noticed that putting everything in conjunction and then trying to find a way, kind of like what you're saying, to just kind of build up dynamically, but nothing extreme, right? Because I'm trying to find my own limits, and I even have those blades for the fascia scraping. So I scrape myself like in the chest and shoulders and stuff to kind of help, because for me, I look at it and go, anything that I think can potentially work, I'm trying it. Have you had any patients with any experience with peptides?
Yeah, so regenerative medicine is huge right now. I mean,
Yeah.
there's a lot of people taking peptides, taking PRP, taking everything, because I agree with it. In terms of, I tell all my patients, and listen, surgery is an art form. Surgery is amazing, and when it's necessary, it's the best thing that's for people, right? Like surgery is an art form. Thank God for surgeons for what they do. But I try to tell people, if there is any way that you can avoid surgery, avoid surgery. Like,
Mhm.
unless you 1000% need surgery, do not get it.
Yeah.
Try other things first. Because once you get surgery, that there's no undo button. There's no coming back from that. Like, you'll be functional again for sure, but it'll be limited to some extent, probably. Surgery is very traumatic. Like, they're going inside your body, they're doing further damage to some extent, just, based on the nature of surgery. So I always try to avoid surgery at all costs. Now, that being said, if you have an athlete whose salary depends on them playing, they don't always have the luxury of waiting to see if things are going to work out without surgery. That's why sometimes they got to jump to surgery because they got to get paid. I understand
Yeah.
that too. But I have worked with people who have had tremendous success with regenerative medicine. That being said, I've also had patients who absolutely need surgery and they came back just fine from surgery. So, it's this balance, but in a very all encompassing way, I always say, just general rule of thumb, if you can avoid surgery, go ahead and avoid surgery. Let's try everything else out first. And then if you still feel like you need it, then get it, because then at least you tried everything else. It goes back to what you were just saying about knowing your limits now that your
Yeah.
shoulders feel better. the whole nature of a professional athlete is you don't have limits. You are pushing past your limits every single, every time you face someone bigger and better than you now have to push past whatever limits you thought you had.
Yeah.
But if you're just someone who's a hobbyist who loves the sport and you just love training, like you have to respect your limits. Otherwise, they're going to get broken. And,
Sure.
as you get older and as your body starts falling apart, like it's not easy to recover at that point. So knowing and respecting your limits is always going to be huge for someone who's not a professional athlete.
Yeah. Are there certain peptides that you have seen with patients that more consistently work better than others?
Not particularly. My experience with peptides is very limited. I just know that I've had patients who have been on peptides and they have recovered well.
Yeah. Because I think that's because it's such a new field of exploration,
Mm-hmm.
and there's really not a tremendous amount of guidance with it. It's, a lot of it is kind of experimental up to the individual to go, okay, how long am I doing this? What am I doing? You can find some guidance online. And there was a guy I was talking to that he literally is a master mixologist for an infusion company that does infusions for people with different diseases. And he knows a lot about peptides. So I kind of get my advice from him in terms of how long do I take this for? How long do I take that for? Because a lot of this stuff you have to cycle on and off. Like you can't just use it all year round. I wish I could. But a lot of these things, this is like, okay, if you do it for 8 weeks, then you have to take 8 weeks off. Then there's always that fear in the back of your mind, at least for me, is, oh shit, am I going to get worse? Is it going to go back to where it was before I had it, or how's it going to be? So, but so far so good. Like I said, I try with everything that I do. I try to make sure I always look for the lowest effective dose. Right? I'm not some lunatic that just goes out like, if 2 milligrams works, I want to do 10 milligrams. I'm always looking for what is the lowest effective dose to initiate the result that I'm looking for. If I need to increase it, I'll increase it, but keep it as low as possible.
Definitely,
That
less is
way
more.
you're not, number one, you're
I
not
believe that as
relying.
well.
Yeah. So it's one of those things where I'm always looking. Now, here's another question for you. In terms of when we're dealing with submission grappling, what are some of the more dangerous techniques that you've seen that we need to be mindful of in terms of protecting our bodies when, say, we're warming up, doing dynamic stretching and stuff like that? What are the most common injuries that you've seen and things that we need to protect ourselves against?
Common injuries I see, a lot of shoulder injuries. I mean, generally
Mm.
when you have more mobility, like shoulders and hips are the most mobile things that we have. But that's also why, our labrums get so worn out in our shoulders and our hips because they're constantly being acted upon in the joint, right? So generally, the more mobility something has, the less stability it has. That's why it's so easy to dislocate a shoulder, especially once it's been dislocated.
Mm.
But yeah, as opposed to an elbow, which is a very stable joint, you're not going to dislocate your elbow accidentally. That being said, once you tear the ligaments, now it's more unstable and now there's more risk for dislocation. But shoulder injuries are very common. But in terms of risk and danger, any kind of spine locks, they just make me cringe. I mean, your spinal column, like the vertebrae, protect the spinal cord. The spinal cord gives you the ability to do everything that you do from a motor standpoint. Once your spinal cord is compromised, you can't move anymore below that point. So whenever I see just things that are, you know, oh, uh, any kind of spine lock, I don't necessarily think they should be banned or anything like that. That's a whole different discussion, but they're brutal and they need to be you know, it's a difficult subject to talk about because you don't want to say, oh, you have to give your opponent the chance to tap, because I've been in situations where I tried to be a nice guy and give my opponent a chance to tap, and then they kind of like fake tapped and then escaped and ended up beating me. And especially when there's money on the line, that's not okay. So I totally understand both sides of the argument, but we really have to respect our spine, because once our spine goes, that's not good. Like, shoulder surgery is different from spinal surgery. Anything
Yeah.
regarding the spine is so much more severe and so much more permanent and potentially so much more debilitating.
That, it's funny you say that because, that's one of the foundations of catch wrestling is spine locks.
Hmm.
But the way I teach it in a very systematic, gentle way where they gradually move up into understanding, here's, you can do this, do this, do this. And I always give people the boundaries. Be like, you set it up, let it go when we're training. I go,
Right.
if you're out there in a competition, rip their heads off. I don't care. But, when we're training and we're in practice, you have to kind of de-escalate, because it's like you said, it's one of those things where, you turn the wrong way when you're locked up like that and you're done. You know, um, to me, I agree with you. I think that's incredibly dangerous. I know a lot of people go, well, what about a heel hook? You know, um, in my opinion, in my experience, I think people are getting too cocky trying to escape certain leg locks instead of going, hey, you know what, this is not a good situation. Uh, you know, let me just end it. Because I remember when Nicky Rod went against Gordon Ryan in ADCC a few years ago, he didn't even finish it, right? As soon as he saw the entry, he tapped. You have to know, I think one of the biggest issues we have, and correct me if I'm wrong, ways to prevent injury is know when it's checkmate. You don't have
Oh,
to
yeah.
try and explode a checkmate. If it's checkmate, just tap. There's this mindset of a lot of people who go, well, how do I escape this submission? I go, if it's a real submission, you're not going to escape. Tap. But, the ego with so many people, they think like, oh, I'm going to escape this armbar. I'm going to escape this double wrist lock. I'm going to escape this knee bar. How about somebody caught you? It's checkmate. Just let it go. Tap, restart, go to the next match, go to the next round, find a way to save yourself to the next day, and to the next training section or the next competition instead of trying to rip out of everything. Would you agree with that?
For sure. For me, I think that a huge part of it comes down to, have you even drilled escaping from this submission?
Mm.
Because if you've drilled escaping from the submission, then you potentially know how to get out of it and you're trying to execute a move that you have practiced. But a lot of people in competition, they get into a submission and it's like, you haven't even worked escaping from an inside heel hook that deep. What do you think is going to happen? Like, you're just going to move around and the stars are going to align and somehow you're going to get out of that. You know, there are people that are very good at escaping leg locks, but it's because they practice escaping leg locks
Yeah.
a lot, So that's, for me, the biggest thing. It's like, did you even drill that? Do you even know what you're trying to do? Or are you just hoping and praying that you moving around and spazzing out is going to get you out of this escape? Because that is the best way to cause a very, very severe injury on yourself.
Now, let me ask you, I got a controversial question for you because it's a very controversial topic. Because what you said, I think you're spot on. I agree 100% with you. Lately, there's this guy that's going around talking about this ecological training, to the point, the guy in particular that I'm referring to, this guy, Greg Souders, really, truly one of the most arrogant people I've ever seen. And somebody sent me clips of his instructional video, and it was really kind of hack wrestling. It was horrible. That being said, he's one of these people promoting, oh, you don't have to drill anything. You don't even have to learn a technique. just play a game in a situation and just figure out a way for yourself to get out of it or finish it. Me, I think that's incredibly dangerous, especially when you don't have the skill set where you haven't drilled 1.5 million times entries and escapes. But as a professional physical therapist, I would like your opinion on
I think that you have to think in terms of risk reward also. It's the difference for me between chokes and breaks. Like, am I in a rear naked choke and I'm trying to figure it out? Because then I'll just go to sleep and then I'll
that.
wake up. That's not too bad. But if I'm in an inside heel hook and and I'm hoping and praying that I figure it out based on my evolutionary instincts of being a human being, I don't know, then my ACL's at risk, and that's 6 months to a year of me not training. So, yeah, risk reward. I mean, the other thing is like, are we talking about doing this in competition or in the training room where we have like a safe word or like an established kind of mutual respect where it's like, yeah, let me work, but please do not blow into my knee.
Mhm. Yeah, no, that's true. I think my biggest concern is because I know there's schools that are doing this, they're not teaching any techniques and they're not drilling any techniques. They're like, we don't drill, we don't do any techniques. We just get into a particular scenario and you have to figure it out on your own because your body's going to figure out the best way for you to do it. To me, I think that's a suicide mission. But
From a principle standpoint, that sounds completely absurd to me because, we have muscle memory. Like, the reason that we're able to act quickly in situations is because we have been in those situations a million times. Like, if you're having to cognitively think about something, you are now moving slower than if you're just able to react based on previous experience. So that's
yeah,
the whole point of drilling, is because it allows us to not think when we get put in that situation. We just move. Our motor neurons are just trained to do that. So we don't have to think about that process anymore. It becomes automatic. So I don't know. At least the way that you're describing it to me sounds crazy and
well,
suicidal.
yeah. So what has been explained to me is that the reason why drilling is ineffective is because you can drill something with a particular entry or reaction, but if in competition that's not the reaction they give you, then the drilling is useless. And I was like, well, no, it's not. You're still like 90% there. So you're making minimal adjustments. Um, I don't know. It's still bizarre to me that people kind of go down that way. Um, because I agree with you. I think there is something to muscle memory, and I've drilled something, a particular technique or escape enough times that even if somebody has a different entry, I'm still competent enough with the amount of drilling, like you were saying, with the muscle memory, that I just make a slight adjustment to finish. I don't have to do that much extra to get out. It's not foreign to me. Because, I guess they're saying, well, if they grab their hands like this instead of like this, then it's not going to work. I'm like, well, that's not true. Besides, it's like at a really high level, there are certain techniques that work. Like the way when I'm grabbing something, I grab it because that's the most technical way to do it. When I teach it, that's the most technical way to do it. So that's why we're drilling it. You go against a high level judoka, when they're hitting an uchimata, they're hitting that uchimata a particular way. You have to drill it. I've never been to a judo school, and I'm a judo black belt, where we weren't micro drilling various aspects of the technique thousands upon thousands of times before we went into randori. And what I'm being told is, well, none of that matters. Just go into a situation where you try and get an uchimata and see if you can get it. I'm like, but I don't know how to do it first. You have to teach them how to do it before they can just try and do it. Because I think it just invites extra injury, right?
Definitely. And I think there's an error in the logic there where you said, people are claiming, oh, you're going to drill it this way in the room, but in competition they might not do that, so it's not going to be valuable. The whole point of high level drilling is that we're trying to create a scenario for every possible scenario. That's why we have discussions. Like, we're creating these hypothetical situations for literally every reaction that could take place, and we're drilling all of them. We're like, if there was this crazy thing that they could do that we just completely missed, that's our fault. That's not the fault of drilling inherently. There's a gap that we needed to fill when we were training. There shouldn't be the this this Hail Mary scenario where they can do this thing and it's like, oh, that makes drilling worthless because they could just do that and we have no idea. It's like, no, we should have trained for that then, you know?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I agree with you. And also, I think the other part that's missed is when you get to the highest level, you see what works and what doesn't work. It's actually this kind of counterpoint of reductionism. You don't see 31,000 different techniques at the highest level of competition. You see the same few things over and over and over again that work. You see the same few entries and reversals over and over and over again. Why? Because it works. And I've given the example. It's just like, as a striker, somebody who grew up striking and kickboxing and all that, I go, there isn't a boxing coach or kickboxing coach in the world that would tell you don't have to learn how to do a jab. Just start throwing your arm out, and then whatever works for you works for you. It's crock of shit. Right? I don't know how many jabs I've thrown in my life. Like, that's how many I've done, right? I don't know how many crosses I've done. I don't know how many hooks I've done. But I can tell you this, sure as shit, I know how to rotate my body, and I know the science behind the most efficient ways to throw these techniques. And that argument with the ecological thing is always just like, well, none of that matters because you're not going to do it the same way every time. Like, well, I'm human. Of course, I'm not going to do it exactly the same way every time because I'm not a robot. I'm not mechanical. But at the same time, if I understand scientifically the mechanical function of a particular technique and I drill it, the more I drill it, the less opportunity I have to do it wrong.
Definitely. And you don't want your techniques to always be exactly the same every time. You want there to be a degree of variability because you might need that degree of variability based on your opponent's body type, the angle at which you have to hit the darce. It's like these things are meant to be molded. That's why we learn concepts first, and then we can explore the concepts once we've learned them. So that way we can learn the techniques and then learn the rules and then learn how we can safely break the rules a little bit.
Yeah.
And vary our technique when needed.
Yeah. I agree with you 100%. It's and because I even asked, I go, the last time I checked, when you go play baseball, if you're on a baseball team, they have something called batting practice. And you're hitting the ball over and over and over again. Tennis, how many forehands do you have to hit? At a ball machine, backhands, serves, you're doing it over and over and over again. And you can't dismiss that as saying that that's not necessary. Well, of course it is. At the highest level of any athletic endeavor, it is a massive amount of drilling of specific techniques and the micro movements within each technique. And the more you do it, I believe, and correct me if I'm wrong, the less susceptible you are to serious injury.
Yeah, for sure.
So we've got that settled, and you're the expert on it. So we're going to put that baby to bed. So I want to talk to you about something else. You hit me up and said that you have a new product line out. So I want to talk a little bit about what you brought out. Tell us your inspiration behind it, why we need it, and where we can get it.
Yeah, for sure. So I started a company called Training Tonic, and it's a supplement company. Right now we have one supplement on the market. It's called Performance Primer. And the inspiration behind it was I saw everyone kind of taking these pre-workouts and energy drinks that just are super high caffeine, not a lot of like real substance to them. You know, a lot of fillers and really just everyone running on hyperdosing caffeine and a lot of other junk that I don't know. I've tried them before and they make me feel anxious and jittery and that's not a good state to be in, especially working with athletes and jujitsu athletes in particular who need something better. They need to still have a clear mind, not a mind that's all over the place. So we designed a product, me and my partners, that's matcha based. So it does have caffeine, but it's not a large dose of caffeine. And the L-theanine that's in matcha counteracts the negative effects of caffeine, so it helps keep you calm and focused. And then we also added supplements in it, which I essentially have been using as a stack for at least a decade. And it really works well for me, and I just wanted to share it with the world because I know it's going to help them take their game to the next level. So we kind of branded it as beyond a pre-workout, but in my mind, it's not really a pre-workout. It's best taken oriented around a workout. So you can take it before, during, or after a workout. That's ideal. But for me, it's more of a multivitamin of supplements, where vitamin is like micronutrients, but this has creatine, it has beta alanine, it has HMB. So it allows you to work out harder and for longer and preserve your muscle at the same time that you're doing it. So it enhances your recovery time. You'll get better workouts. You'll get the muscular benefits, the cognitive benefits from the creatine, and the dextrose that we put in there is immediate energy, and the insulin response that it triggers helps your muscles and your body cells absorb the supplements better. So what we were talking about before, less is more. We believe less is more also. So based on the synergistic effect of the ingredients and the insulin response that we're getting from the dextrose, we're able to take less of all the supplements while getting a higher effect in the body.
Wow. So now that Les Allen has joined us, Les
hey man,
needs
less
to know.
is more. Definitely, bro. 100%. I get that. 100%, bro. How you doing, Steven? It's nice to meet you, brother.
So
Good to meet you, Les.
How did you come up with the dosing for the supplement? Because people are going to want to know. Yeah, people are going to want to know, how do I know that this is the right amount I should be taking? Because there's so much crazy information online, right? With regards to, supplementation. You have research papers that say do this much. The latest thing I heard on creatine supposedly is like, if you take too much creatine, you could lose your hair. Les doesn't have to worry about that. He doesn't have any hair. But, it's like, I would like to keep my hair. So how do we know how much we're taking, or what is that effective dose?
Right, for sure. So that's a huge part of it, because essentially the product is a stack. Like it's multiple supplements in one, and the term stack just means you're taking more than one supplement. So creating a stack that is effective for everyone was very difficult, and that's a difficult endeavor on its own. That's why not a lot of supplement companies do it. But I read a lot of research papers on the minimal effective dose of all these supplements, and that's when we got to work, and the synergistic effect that when you take creatine with dextrose, like if you've heard that you should be taking your creatine with carbohydrates, there's truth to that, because the dextrose, what it does is it'll spike your insulin. Insulin helps your body absorb blood sugars and also creatine. So essentially, if you want to think of it like this, when we have 19 grams of dextrose, which is less than 80 calories per serving, but if you take 3 grams of creatine with 19 grams of dextrose, it can be equivalent to the same thing as taking 5 grams of creatine with no carbohydrates. So we were trying to piggyback everything on this less is more model, because that's what I truly believe. So the minimal effective dose is there for all the supplements. That way, if you want to take a second serving, if you feel like you need it, go for it. But we really believe that just one serving is good. You know, like if you want to take one a day, you will be able to have effectiveness from all five of the ingredients. And there's only five ingredients in the supplement: no fillers, no
Wow.
synthetics, no artificial dyes or anything like that, no citric acid, just all real ingredients.
So using the beta alanine in conjunction with the creatine, does that increase endurance?
Yes, definitely. So the creatine allows for regeneration for your ATP. ATP is needed for muscle contraction, right?
Mhm.
But beta alanine increases your carnosine levels. So that buffers hydrogen. So basically, it prevents lactic acid buildup, which boosts muscular endurance. The
Mm.
problem is when you're taking creatine with beta alanine, and I say problem loosely because it's a good problem. It allows your muscles to do way more. The beta alanine increases your muscular endurance because you're not suffering from lactic acid buildup, and the creatine allows you to get more reps done, more powerful reps, because now you have more ATP. But that's going to do more damage to your muscle fibers. That's why we also combined it with HMB, which is a metabolite of leucine, which is very anti-catabolic, which means that it preserves your muscle tissue. So while you're able to do more and do it for longer, the HMB is protecting your muscle fibers. So you'll still get muscle fiber breakdown, which is necessary for it building back
For growth, yeah.
bigger and stronger. But it's not letting your muscle fibers get destroyed where now it's going to take you days to recover or anything like that.
Wow.
That sounds awesome.
Yeah.
We're going to have to
Well,
get some of
I
this
love
stuff.
it. I mean,
Try it.
Like I've taken, like I took a couple of pre-workouts the other day, dude. All it did was make my ass itch. It was like itchy all over. I'm like rolling around the floor like I'd been like stuck by a million wasps. It was fucking horrible, dude. Like made my dick itch. It was fucking horrible. So yeah, this stuff sounds amazing, mate. Doesn't make me itch, does it?
so there, beta alanine is one of the ingredients, and for some people, it can give you a little bit of a tingle. Like when I take a serving a training tonic, I get a little bit of like a head flush right here. But
Okay,
other than that, I don't get itchy or anything like that.
right.
Beta
That's cool.
alanine was actually the one ingredient that was the most difficult to dose because everyone
Uh-huh.
is so the sensitivity levels vary so much within people for
Okay.
beta alanine. So some
Okay.
people can take very little and
Huh.
get very flushed, and some people can take a lot and not feel anything. Now, the
Okay.
feeling that you get from beta alanine does not necessarily correlate to its effectiveness. If you don't feel the tingle, that doesn't mean it's not working. The tingle is just
Okay.
a side effect that could be
Yeah. Sure.
potential, and a lot of people like it because then they know it's time to go. They like that feeling.
Okay. 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 Yeah.
But
Okay.
So,
that was the one ingredient where we made sure like we didn't put too much beta alanine in because then everyone's skin might just feel too flushed.
you'll be like Les
Yeah.
scratching your butt on the floor like a
Yeah,
dog.
scratching your butt.
Mate, it's fucking horrible, man. It's the only time I've pulled guard, and that's just to fucking get my back on the floor. You know what I mean? So, like, in terms, in terms of like, like people that like the sensitivity between people and stuff. I know it's a bit of a mood topic, but like, obviously, certain companies might do like a DNA swab and figure out what race is race, and then kind of like manufacture the particular product to go with that kind of like kind of maybe DNA code to kind of make it across the board. So in terms of the product that you're doing across the board, do you see anything that's different across any particular genetic scope? In terms of like, you know, uh, like maybe English people or American people or different, different anatomies, different genetics. Has anything cropped up in your tests that have suggested that there might be different side effects for different kind of different scopes of like DNA coding, so to speak, and in that kind of way, without being too direct. Do you know what I'm saying?
No, definitely. So we haven't found anything in particular to race or ethnicity or anything like that. That being said, there are people who, for example, have very sensitive GI problems, right? Like
Uh-huh. Uh-huh.
gastrointestinal, they're just
Yeah.
hypersensitive to supplements.
Yep.
If they take a
Yep.
large dose of creatine, they might be on the toilet for a couple hours.
Uh-huh.
That's just
Yep.
unfortunate for them. So
Uh-huh.
that
Okay,
was
okay, okay.
another reason. That was another reason that we used the minimal effective dose for all our supplements. So that way it is
There we go.
friendly to everyone's GI,
Awesome.
right?
Yeah. Beautiful. Yeah.
That was
So
a huge thing too.
one of the things that I had issue with in the past with beta alanine, I bought it separately in bulk. It smelled like shit. It smelled so bad. I literally threw the whole bag out. I spent all this money. I'm like, okay, I'm going to put it in with my creatine, blah, blah, blah. It smelled so bad that I was like, I can't take this. And it freaked me out because I'm like, I don't know where this is coming from. You know, I didn't know the source of it. I didn't know what it really was. It's saying it's beta alanine, but it smelled like a dead animal. And being a vegan, I was just like, I can't take this. You know, it scared the hell out of me. And I literally, after a couple of tries, I threw the whole bag out. You know, so I'm assuming I'm not going to just smell your product and throw it out.
No, I mean, beta alanine in terms of, so all the ingredients, we don't have a proprietary blend either, because proprietary blends, you have no idea like how much of what you're getting, right? It just says these are the ingredients and this is how much there is of all of it. We're very transparent with how much there is of everything on our label. Beta alanine, it clearly says there's 2 grams. A serving is 29 grams. Like that's one serving is 29 grams of powder. So 2 grams out of 29 grams. No, if you smell our product, it smells like tea. It smells like matcha,
Okay.
you know, because
Very cool.
that's like the main ingredient. So we've had very positive feedback regarding the smell and the taste. The other thing about beta alanine is that the more consistently you take it, it'll build up resilience in your body. You won't get the same tingle over time. You know, if you want that tingle, then you're going to have to keep taking more potentially, which, you know, is good or bad depending on what you're looking for.
What are your thoughts on L-citrulline? Because I've noticed really good benefits for me taking L-citrulline just on the side and throwing that in with my creatine.
Yeah, I've never really experimented with it. Like I know about it, and part of the reason that I created this supplement, part of the reason that I created Training Tonic in general, and then we started with Performance Primer, is because there are so many supplements out there. Like
Yeah.
it creates this feeling where everyone feels like the second they hear about they're like, that's me. I need to take that thing. And it's like if that were the case, everyone would be on 50 different supplements. So I really got it down to the nitty gritty scientific foundation. What are the most important supplements that I think everyone should be on for long-term health and longevity? And that's where my product came into. So not saying L-citrulline is not good. It just didn't fit into my paradigm for what I was looking for in terms of the core essentials of a supplement.
That's really good, man. Because like, there's so much shit out there that
Yeah.
like I've got to the point now where it's like, you know what? I'm not even gonna fucking take anything. I don't know what I'm looking at anymore. You know, there's just literally like hundreds and hundreds of shit that I'm looking at. I'm like, fuck it, I'll just go to Costa and get a coffee. You know, and then I'm just training on that. So, you know, it's nice, it's refreshing to be able to listen to something and somebody that knows kind of what we need as athletes, you know, as wrestlers that do a bit of BJJ, you know, that's going to help prime us. Do you know what I'm saying?
Definitely. I mean, people get into analysis paralysis, and that's exactly what you just described. It's like you give them too many choices, and they're just not going to choose anything
Yeah.
because now
Yeah.
they're just confused and they're scared and they're getting FOMO about missing out or choosing the wrong thing. It's like when you go to a restaurant and the menu's too big, and you're like, I have
Yeah.
no idea what I want.
Yeah.
I'll
I
never
don't know
go to a
which
diner.
fucking beer I'm going to have. Yeah, exactly, man.
Right, exactly. It's like, as opposed to if I just go to a restaurant and there's 7 things I can choose from, I'm like, okay, let's get to work. Let's make a decision here. I don't want
Yeah.
100 decisions. Like, I don't know
Yeah.
if I want breakfast or lunch now. And now I'm confused, you know?
Yeah. Yeah. And then you end up at
100%.
Denny's.
Yeah, exactly.
So how do we get your product? How do we order it?
Yeah.
Because I'm curious. I got to
Right
get
now,
Yeah,
Oh
we
yeah.
want it,
Right
man.
now, the only way you can get it is trainingtonic.com.
Okay.
Now we're working on getting our product in other markets such as Amazon and Walmart and things like that. But right now, directly through our website, trainingtonic.com, that's how you can order some.
Okay.
Cool.
Yeah, I'm gonna have to do that because I wanna try for myself. Because the thing is
Me
I
too.
hate having so many bags in the kitchen. I have this, I have this, I have this, and I'm like, I feel like a chemist mixing all this crap together. And I've tried stuff. There was I can't even remember the name of a company, but a friend of mine told me, "Oh, you got to try this stuff, this pre-workout." And I don't really take much caffeine or anything. I don't know what was in this stuff, but I swear to God, guys, I thought I was seeing into the future. It was so weird. I was high as a kite, and I'm going into the
Them
gym,
shrooms, man.
and oh my God, and I'm like working out and stuff. I'm like, what the hell is going on? I felt like I was seeing things, and I was an out of body experience. I'm like, I don't think this is
So what's the
healthy for
stuff you
me.
got, sorry?
I don't remember what it was called, but
That's amazing, dude.
it scared the hell out of me to the point, like, I train a bunch of law enforcement officers. I was like, guys, I just want to let you know, I don't know what this is, but I don't know if you guys need to investigate this or what. But I walked into the gym, I took the stuff. I was on another planet. I was out of my mind high. And but it's just like I felt like I could levitate the weights. I was like, I was like, shit. I wish I was on the mat right now because I was about to kill somebody.
Shit, I know it's completely unrelated, but I remember like I did the UK Championship, right, and the fucking I think the coaches took it off me, and it was this stuff called Ultimate Orange. I don't know if you've ever heard of it.
Yes,
but
I've heard of Ultimate Orange. Yeah.
Fuck, mate. It like my eyeballs felt like they were popping out my skull. I was like, it was crazy shit, man. But they had to take it off me because I was fucking raging. It was crazy shit, man.
Yeah.
So yeah, times have changed, man. So yeah, I definitely need this stuff because I don't want to go back on that.
It sounds clean, and then also, what's really important, especially for guys that are fighting competitively, and let's say they're getting drug tested. This is something that's obviously a clean supplement. So, it's a clean stack. There's nothing in it, and that's really important. I remember back in the early '90s, there was a product that came out here in the U.S. called Hot Stuff, and it was on the market. Then they took it off because they were putting these steroid metabolites in it, and you'd see these guys taking it like by the scoopful, just pounding it into their mouth, and everybody was jacked to the gills. And it turns out it's just like it had all these. And anybody who took it, if you were going to compete, I mean, there was no testing back then, but if you did, you'd be pissing hot because of how much how much stuff was in there. Not to say that it wasn't effective, it was, but I think to your point, we really should be calling you Dr. Ramos because you have your doctorate now, but they have too much crap in the products. You have to be extremely careful, and especially from where they're sourced, you don't know. You hear all the time, and guys were getting tested by USADA back in the day, and WADA issues with different types of athletes. It was tainted with this. So you're looking at it like you're saying with your product, it's 5 ingredients. It's something that you can look up, research. It's you're, as you were talking about, you're putting in the minimum effective dose of each thing. It's not something that you're sneaking in like some Sustanon in there or something where you're going to piss hot. If they get tested, it's just clean, natural stuff. That anybody can use.
And that's the thing. Like, so a supplement can say, we only have 5 ingredients, but if they're not certified and if they're not being tested by an outside agency, they could totally be sneaking in things. That's why it was so important to me to get NSF certified sport, which is the gold standard of supplementation. If you see NSF sport certified, that everything that label says is completely true. I mean, they do an audit of your site, that you're not making any claims that aren't true. They do an audit of your product to make sure that only the ingredients that you say are in there are in there. There is no banned substances, so no professional athlete will fail a drug test. I mean, everything has been tested. And our website is fully transparent. And like I said, they audited the website, so we're not making any claims that aren't true. There's a plethora of information on our website. So if you have any questions about supplements or are just looking to geek out and learn how this stuff can help biohack your body to make you a better athlete, just go on the website trainingtonic.com and do some reading, because it's really cool stuff put in the
Dude,
website.
I'm buying it
Okay.
today. I'm sold. I'm buying it today because it gives me the opportunity. I
Yeah,
can
yeah,
throw
yeah.
out
Me too.
basically half of my cabinet, which I would love if I could throw everything out and just order one thing. Because I actually am almost due for another bag of creatine. Fuck that. I'm not buying anything else. I'm
Yeah.
just going to get the training tonic. I want one supplement, and that's all I'm going to use. And I just want it to work. I don't need to see into the future. I don't want to hallucinate. I don't want to go in any kind of weird rage. I just want something
Yeah.
that's going to,
Me neither.
at my age, the older that I get, I just want something that's going to just keep me alive and just let me do what I'm going to do and just be cool. I don't need anything crazy. I don't want to put any chemicals into my body. I'm not a fan of steroids and, drugs and all this stuff. It's just, but I love your concept and your idea because it's something that, okay, boom, I can trust it. It's NSF certified. Got 5 ingredients. I'm good to go. All right, I'm sold. I love that. What a great idea. Now, let me ask you, with regards to getting something NSF certified, is that expensive to do? Is that an expensive process?
Extremely. Yeah, it's expensive and it takes a lot of time. That's why a lot of supplement companies don't do it, especially when they're just starting out, because a lot of them don't have the money up front to do it. But like I said, that was just the most important thing to me is trust and transparency. I want people to know that I'm not lying about anything. I just want them to, I think trust is the most important thing that you can build, especially early on in a relationship. And if people
Mhm.
are beginning to formulate a relationship with Training Tonic, I want it to be based on trust. So it didn't matter that it was expensive to me. It didn't matter that it was going to take a year to get it done before we could even sell the product. It was what mattered most to me. So
Yeah. Well, you're
Yeah.
building it the right way. Now, do you have ideas for additional products in the future?
oh, definitely. Yeah, we don't. So I don't want to give away any spoilers or anything like that,
Don't
but
worry.
I want Training Tonic to be the company that people go to for all their health and wellness needs. So this is Performance Primer.
Mhm.
Training Tonic is the name of our brand, but this is Performance Primer. So the reason it's called Performance Primer is because I wanted a new term instead of pre-workout, because pre-workout to me has such a negative connotation. It's like, this is just a performance enhancing supplement. Like if you're going to take it oriented around a workout, it's going to prime you for that performance and it's going to make you better at it. But, in the future, I want sleep aids. I want more focused recovery aids. I want a little morning supplement, basically whatever you think that your body's going to need to perform optimally, we are going to have a supplement for that. That's my long-term plan.
Wow.
That
I
sounds
love
awesome.
that.
Yeah.
Yeah. You're
So
taking the
just a quick one,
guesswork
guys.
out.
I just want to apologize. I'm actually out in the Lake District. I've gone out on the bike, and yeah, blasted a few MPHs, and I've just like found somewhere to wild camp. So I'm just kind of like on a fucking fly here, guys. So I'm really sorry, but I really needed a day off. All right, so
Yeah.
please forgive me. But I'm here.
Oh, good,
I'm
Enjoy
man.
100. Yeah, thank you, man. I'm 100% here with my attention, guys. So just carry on, please.
All good. All right. So now we know we're going to trainingtonic.com and we're getting the world's greatest supplement, our performance primer. So I want to switch subjects on you guys really quick because I don't know who's heard of this yet. I just saw it yesterday. Somebody brought it to my attention. I'm not a fan of the IBJJF. I don't make any that's not a hidden secret. I don't know if you guys heard that the IBJJF decided to demote Hegan Machado and Eric Paulson.
Yeah.
What?
Yeah,
So
I heard that.
yeah, so
Wow.
Hegan is now supposedly a 3rd degree black belt, like myself, and Eric Paulson
Wow.
is a just black belt, now with no
Amazing.
degrees.
What a crop.
What? I'm sorry. I'm completely out of the loop. I haven't heard that. What brought that on?
Wow. Yeah, I know.
They're assholes. I don't know. I mean, first of all, I think we have to acknowledge and remember that the IBJJF is a for-profit tournament company that is owned by Gracie Baja. So
Such a
I
shame.
always say, Yeah, I always say in my gym when I'm doing seminars, clinics, no matter where I am, any technique I show you, I don't care if it's IBJJF legal. The IBJJF has no authority or jurisdiction over what I teach, what I say, what I do, and who I promote. Okay, they have no authority over me whatsoever, and they don't have any authority over any of us. If you choose to pay money into a for-profit tournament company, which is owned by Gracie Baja, to have them run your life, that's your problem, not mine. That being said, first of all, Gracie Baja only recognizes you as a particular belt if you pay them a bunch of money.
Yeah.
Right. So according to Gracie Baja, I mean, I'm no belt, right? I guess I'm a white belt or something. Doesn't matter how long I've been a black belt, all these years or whatever. So if you don't pay them your money and get approval from them, you're nobody. Now, Hegan was the original teacher at Gracie Baja when Gracie Baja was invented back in the day in the early 80s. Hegan got his black belt from Carlos Gracie Jr., who owns Gracie Baja. Carlos Gracie Jr. had stepped away from teaching, and Hegan was the head instructor for years and years and years. And then eventually he came to the United States. I don't know if everybody knows the story. When the Machados originally came to the United States, they were teaching for Carlos Gracie Jr. at the original Gracie Baja that came up in California. And then, of course, there was all this controversy because Hegan was also teaching for Horion. And then Horion started suing everybody for calling it Gracie Jiu-Jitsu. He wanted to be the only one that's Gracie Jiu-Jitsu after UFC 1. So sued his entire family. And then everybody started calling their Jiu-Jitsu something else. And, of course, then we have initially RCJ Machado, which was the initials of the five brothers. And now it's just every Machado has their own academy and their own affiliation. So I do find it very comical that two of the most legendary, grapplers and jiu-jitsu practitioners in the world, Eric Paulson and Hegan Machado, and I'm going to talk to Eric about it, and we'll have him back on the show. And eventually I have to get Hegan on too. I'm sure Hegan will be too nice about it, about, what really happened. But I'll get the story from Eric. Whether or not he wants to give the entire story on the podcast, I don't know, but he likes messaging me in the middle of the night. So it'll be fun for me to, when I see him, we'll sit down and chat.
Well, at least he replies to you. So I mean, just like from my ADHD point of view, so Hegan Machado fought Rickson Gracie.
Yeah.
What grade is Rickson Gracie?
He's no grade according to the IBJJF.
Rickson
is no grade.
Yeah.
I don't even think he's a black belt according to the IBJJF. Yeah.
For real?
Yeah.
Okay.
So if you go on to the IBJJF website, they will tell you who's an actual official black belt. If you are not on that list, you are not a black belt in jiu-jitsu.
I don't even know if I'm on that list. I got my black belt from JT 3 years ago, but I haven't competed in IBJJF since then. I'm probably not even on that list. And
yeah, no, none of us are.
Yeah, no, that's just insane. That's insane.
Yeah. So Rickson, I mean, theoretically he's a red belt, but he said, no, I'll stay coral belt for a few more years, whatever. But it's regardless.
So that means I can jump into an IBJJF competition as a white belt. That's fucking mint.
Yeah, fuck it, let's do it. So yeah, the whole thing's quite a racket. So according to them, like I said, if you are not paying into their membership, you are not a recognized black belt. You are not a black belt. So
the belt system's gone to shit, basically, then.
Oh yeah. So Rickson wouldn't even be a black belt, even though he's basically a red belt for all of his contributions, regardless of what I think of his grappling or not. That's irrespective of the fact that the man has had so much contribution to jiu-jitsu for the last 40 years. you have to recognize the man is there at the top. The same thing with Hegan.
Oh God, yeah,
Hegan,
no,
you know,
absolutely, and all the people that they've taught. I mean,
all of
Hicks
them.
and Grace is like, you know what I mean. You've got like Yuki Nakai. So he
Yeah.
just did a seminar in the UK. Yuki Nakai, did he not pour enough blood, sweat, and tears and eyeballs enough to fucking get his black belt? Do you know what I'm saying?
Nope. Yeah. Unless you bow down to Gracie Baja, no, you're not, and you have to pay them your $500 or whatever it is. Oh, it's
not having that, mate.
atrocious.
Yeah, that's bullshit.
Yeah.
You know, it's so bad. It's so to me, it's embarrassing to the IBJJF. You know, where like Paulson posted it the other day. He's like, apparently we got demoted, and it shows Hegan's name and everything, 3rd degree black belt. And then Eric Paulson just black belt. It's like, what are you talking about? You know, it's like,
wow.
You know,
amazing.
Paulson was already held back enough as it was, right? Because of all the controversy. That's an interesting story in and of itself. But you know, because the reality is Paulson would have been one of the Dirty Dozen, but there was all this kind of nonsense. They held him back and screwed him over, but he was still right there. You know, they've done this to a number of people. The reason that's what, you know, I've explained on the show before. The reason why they changed the belt, the stripes, giving out stripes and belts and all this, was because they didn't want Americans getting ahead. So
right,
initially,
a bit too late for that.
Oh yeah, they were giving stripes on the black belt every 1 to 2 years. I mean, shit, Helio, before he passed away, he gave I want to say he gave Huron Gracie 5 stripes. He gave Henner 3 or 4. He gave the Valente brothers like 5 stripes each, just from no stripes to 5 stripes. And he's just like, oh, I could do whatever I want. Just, I feel they have good teaching ability. So here's the number of degrees that I'm giving them. So it was always very arbitrary. But then as soon as, you know, non-Brazilians, I'll just compile it like that because it's, you know, to Les's point, you have to look at everybody from the Japanese to British to everyone who was contributing and building up, you know, the art. Basically, they didn't like the fact that people were advancing and they wanted to keep the Brazilian hierarchy. So the only way they could do that is start changing the years of how many years it takes for each stripe and belt promotion, blah, blah, blah. And then now as black belts, you know, typically it's like, you know, like I said, initially it was like every year to 2 years you'd get a stripe. Then now recently they switch it to, okay, first, I think what is this? Like first 3 degrees is 3 years each. And then 5 years each, 5 years each. And it wasn't a thing before. It simply wasn't a thing. I remember I saw it change right in front of me. I've been, you know, Les, you and me, we've been around for a minute. So we've seen the bullshit changes, you know, but they were just making it up as they go along just to keep people down.
Yeah. Well, they did it in their own family, didn't they? I mean, God, look at Jorge. You know, the Red Fox, you know, he got fucking bummed, didn't he?
Yeah.
You know, there's loads of them that have just had it stuck up them. So, you know.
So you know, it's very bizarre that they would do that. And especially for 2 of such luminaries in the art as Hegan Machado and Paulson.
Oh yeah, fuck yeah!
You know,
like got absolute legends, pioneers in every facet of MMA and BJJ and fuck everything, mate. Like like
you want to fuck somebody over, go fuck Steven over, or fuck me over. Who am I? I'm nobody, right? But to all of a sudden you're trying to demote Eric Paulson, and then you're saying Hegan Machado is like you're taking away like 7 degrees or 6 degrees from Hegan Machado. Are you kidding me?
Yeah, like
who are you?
Literally the ground that it stands on, literally the ground that the whole system stands on. That's what they're trying to do. So basically they're just making a statement to say no, actually they're not the ground that would stand on. We are, and to me that's not happening.
Well, you know, it's also funny. I don't know how many people know this, but when Carlos Gracie Jr. got his coral belt, you know who gave it to him was Henzo.
Mm.
And Henzo is lower than when Carlinos was a black belt, Henzo was a blue belt. And
Okay.
Henzo was the one that awarded him his coral belt, and then Carlinos gave himself his candy cane belt, the red and white belt. So it's funny how, you know, Carlinos can promote himself however and whenever he wants. And then, you know, they have this artificial structure to kind of push everybody else down.
Yeah.
And you know, it's just very bizarre.
Yeah.
It's incredibly
It's
bizarre.
like what did they say in the old days? Pay, it's not like not like a token. Pay.
Yeah, you're like a
It's
pay to
like a
play. It's
yeah,
just
like
like pay to play. You know?
It's like paying a toll or
Yeah,
contribution, isn't it? It's like your
yeah,
Paying
contribution,
your
you know.
dues.
yeah. You got to pay your little tribute to the king, so to
Tribute, that's
speak, and
it.
then
Tribute,
yeah,
yeah, exactly,
and then
man.
they'll kind of acknowledge your existence. If you don't pay the tribute, then you're a peasant.
Yeah, crazy world,
And
man.
Yeah,
no,
I was curious, so I just looked at the list. I'm not on it, so I guess I'm not an IBJJF certified black belt.
yeah, neither am I. I
I
Yeah,
refuse.
probably
I'm like,
won't be
you're
either.
not. Absolutely not. You
I don't
know,
want to
the only
misspeak, but I just quickly looked it up. It looks like you got to pay like $400 initially just to get certified.
Wow, that's nice
and
of
then
them, isn't it?
and then you have these annual fees. You have there's a lot of annual fees. I don't think it's just one time. I think it's like multiple. You have to do that every year. There's an annual renewal
So,
fee.
I mean, the way I think about it now, I'm just thinking about going toe to toe with someone now, and I'm, you know, like you do, and I'm just thinking this guy's like, you know, looking at the record, 6'4", so on, fucking 200 pounds, whatever. Black IBJJF black belt. I'm like, so fucking what? You're dead meat. Do you know what I mean? Because it's not legitimate, is it? You know, okay,
No,
so he's a
it's a
black
joke.
belt, so he's paid $500. Has he trained for it? Probably not.
No,
So it's not a problem on the mat. So, you know, I mean, yeah, on paper, it's ridiculous. It's crazy. But I guess when you're facing them toe to toe, as always, mate, you just you let yourself do what you do best, innit?
yeah,
Yeah,
you know,
especially when you start realizing when you're not competing in IBJJF how dangerous some lower belts can be. I mean, I
Mm.
remember when like Andrew Tackett was a purple belt and the guy was
Yeah.
a monster, just
yeah, kick
destroying
free.
black belts.
Yeah,
You
Yeah.
know, so it's like at a certain point, who cares
Yeah.
about the belt system?
Yeah.
Like,
No,
yeah.
totally. And then you get
Rutello brothers.
a lad from Stephen at 77 kg wrestling that goes and takes out your local blue belts. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, yeah. You know, it's absolutely ridiculous. You know, it's offensive. When it was sent to me and I had a bunch of guys pissed off. Can you believe this shit? I was just laughing because I know Paulson's laughing about it. I know Hegan is just like, whatever. I'm sure he's shrugging. Like I said, I'm going to talk to both of them, you know, in the next few days in person about it. You know, no, I got to get them both on the show, but it's it's insulting to the jiu-jitsu community, you know, at the
Yeah.
end of the day, to do
It is.
something like that to those people.
No,
Never mind
100%.
those guys, because the amount they have both contributed over the last, you know, 30, 40 years is incomprehensible.
Well, think
You
about all
know,
the other people, not even the big names. I mean, people that have really, really like taken it to heart and struggled, and they've saved up their money and they've gone to Brazil and they've found somebody on Copacabana or Ipanema and they've been like, right, I'm going to train and train and train and train, and they've got their belt and they've got the next belt and they've got the next belt, and you know they're working a part-time job at like Sainsbury's, which is I suppose our equivalent of 7-Eleven, and you're getting like, you know, and they're working tooth and nail and they've finally got their black belt, and now some jumped up fucking guy in a mansion that probably sells drugs for a living is just like, you know what? Let's just take the piss. We'll charge them $400, and if they're not going to pay $400, we're just going to take the belt off them. Nah, it's just
yeah.
not right, is it?
it's so pathetic. Or then, you know,
Yeah.
I've talked about this on a previous episode. This guy that just recently came out, this fake rich guy, this Derek Moneyberg, Dale Bukowski or whatever his name is. he got his supposed black belt in the last 3.5 years from Jake Shields.
Is that chubby guy with the black T-shirt with a bit of gold writing on it?
Yeah. That fat guy.
Yeah,
That's
I know
like
what you mean.
going,
Yeah,
hey, look, I'm a black belt.
He's got like a Jerry curl, hasn't he?
Yeah, and then so Chris Brennan, who's freak of nature, black belt, who I guess wouldn't be a black belt either, according to the IBJJF, who's smoked more guys than I can count. He challenged Derek Moneyberg. He's just like, okay, let's go. If you're a black belt, let's roll. And so this Derek Moneyberg now just comes out and says, well, if you want to roll with me, it's going to cost you $75,000.
Oh, so there it is. It's just there.
He's saying to Chris Brennan that Chris Brennan, who, mind you, Chris Brennan is like 5'5". He's a little dude. Okay. He's saying that Chris Brennan has to pay him $75,000 to roll with him. And then he was paying these guys $2,000 and up to supposedly do privates with him so he could get his black belt. And I guess he paid everybody. I still don't understand how Jake Shields gave him his black belt. I think that's ridiculous. Obviously he paid Jake Shields very well.
Must have done.
But all these people that he's paid, and Gordon Ryan, he paid Gordon Ryan to train with him, and all these people. And I was watching the videos. This guy, to me, he's not even a white belt. The guy can't move. He has zero. The dude's got zero technique. And then he's walking around, Stephen, you're going to love this, saying he's at 10% body fat. Okay. I'm nowhere near 10% body fat. I'm pretty damn lean. And this fatty is going around online saying, you can go look, you're the scientist, saying that he's 10% body fat. I'm like, this guy's got 30% body fat in his chin alone.
You know what?
Like, I just got a chubby face. I'm jacked.
More chins than a Chinese phone book.
Exactly.
So you've got like. So it just seems like, I mean, it just seems like it's the end times, isn't it? Do you know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So it's all inversion, isn't it? So you've got all this shit going on politically. You've got people that can't fucking camp out in Canada. You've got all this shit, and then just when you think that BJJ's safe, you get some overweight pumper with a Jerry curl getting his black belt and assuming that he's King Kong. It's like it's going all the way through every facet of human existence at the moment. I think it's crazy, but it's I'm not fucking surprised, mate, to be honest, just with the way things are going, But
I got another good one for you guys. I'm not going to name any names, but there's a guy out in Australia that was made known to be by our buddy Adam Tibbetts. And apparently this guy was a purple belt. He got his purple belt at a gym.
Oh, no, he was a blue belt, and then he gave himself a purple belt. Is that the guy you're on about?
No. Wait, you're going to love this.
Okay. All right.
This guy was a purple belt and then supposedly got his brown and black belt online from somebody that I know.
Oh,
apparently.
Really?
And he's putting it all out. I'm a black belt, blah, blah, blah. Has never even met the guy that gave him his supposed brown belt and black belt.
Oh, for real?
Never even met him. Supposedly did it online on an online video, and is now going around saying that he's the grandmaster of BJJ and catch wrestling in Australia.
What a guy!
And the guy's a joke. The
guy
can't wrestle at all. He can't train at
all.
Amazing. And here's something funny, right? The guy that gave him his brown and black belt, I guess, is an IBJJF black belt. So technically this guy can register as an IBJJF black belt, even though the guy's never bullshit promoted on a video of his brown and black belt. Never even met the guy that gave him his brown and black.
That, I mean, in terms of that must be counterproductive. I mean, everything that's going on there, people surely they must look at it and just go, "Wow, what a load of shit!" And it must. I mean, anybody with an ounce of intelligence must think it's not worth a fucking dime. So it must just implode. This can't continue and exist like profitably. Surely people aren't that stupid. But yeah,
Well, look at
fucking
what
I mean, at
happened
ironic.
in
that point, just go
Taekwondo.
online. Just go online, buy a black belt, and put it on yourself, and just go tell people whatever the hell you want.
You
Yeah,
might as
yeah,
well.
I
I'm
guess.
like, I know
Yeah.
guys here in Southern California. I will not name names, but for $5,000, you can become a black belt under a major jiu-jitsu competition team.
Wow.
Major.
Wow.
$5,000. And I'm talking about guys that have competed at the highest level. Even a guy that is an ADCC champion is selling black belts for $5,000.
Wow.
Sounds like a good business model. What the hell are we
Right?
doing?
Exactly. So
Yeah, I was thinking that.
if you're a hungry
No
blue belt that
scruples.
wants to that wants to open a business somewhere, that wants to open a gym, and you want to be a black belt, I can give you the guy that'll hook you up tomorrow for $5,000, and you can pretend you're a black belt under him. And as long as you pay him his money, you're a black belt. So that's what we've been reduced to. That's what we've been reduced to. And the minute I come in and spine lock any of those fuckers, they're going to be the first ones crying, and they're going to run to Steven to fix him. But it's absolute bullshit.
Wow.
It's absolute bullshit. It's so atrocious.
I did post something recently about kind of the state of it, like, and it's like I said before, it's like karate was like back in the 70s, 80s. People that had a black belt actually knew how to fight, and then a few years down the line, you say I'm a karate black belt, you just get laughed at, you know. And then there was a time where a blue belt would be a fairly good thing to have when you entered the UFC or IFC or, you know, the events back in the day where people actually fought for a fucking living. But now it's just it's just gone the way of karate.
Oh, it's a joke. And look, how is it that Taekwondo, you could be 10, 11 years old and be a black belt? Like, what are you talking about?
Yeah.
You're giving this kid false hope that he can actually fight when they're going to get ragdolled. You know, a lot of times I watch these black belt demonstrations online of people in like Taekwondo or karate and stuff like that. And I was just like, this fatty's a black belt, this person's a black belt, this person's black, and they're horrible. They can't punch or kick to save their life, or they can't do anything. I mean, at the end of the day, regardless of the style, technique is technique. And there's certain things you just can't fake. And it's just gotten to the point now where apparently all of a sudden in jiu-jitsu, you can buy your belt, no problem. You can have your little school somewhere and go posture that you're some kind of black belt when, you know, maybe at best you have blue belt level skills. You know, it's atrocious. It's really, really bad. And it just, and to add insult to injury, they demote. Now I wanted to learn the backstory of it, and I'll find out and I'll let everybody know, but they demote Hegan and Eric Paulson. Are you kidding me?
Yeah, that's just fucking crazy. That's crazy. No, it is like, that's just crazy.
Yeah, like it doesn't make any sense. Like, it's like, what kind of bizarre world are you in?
I'm fucking lost for words, mate. Yeah, lost for words.
This is like, wait, what did you do?
It's almost like some April Fool's joke.
That's what I thought it was when they sent it. When they first sent it to me, I thought for sure. I'm like, it's April Fool's in the summertime. Like, wait, this is a joke, right? But no, it's just like this is literally what they did, and I'm laughing. I'm like, there's just no way. I'm like, is it a clerical error or what? What are they doing? Or is you know, Paulson just trolling everybody? But I don't know. I mean, you would have to pull it up, but yeah. According to the IBJJF, if you're not paying them their dues, they can take all your ranking away. And you're nobody.
That's too much power.
Yeah.
Oh, it's
absolutely.
And at the end of the day, it's perceived power. Like, who are they? They're nobody. It's a tournament company. What do you give a shit whether or not a for-profit tournament company tells you you're a rank or not? It's nothing.
And you know what? The beauty that is still untouched, and I say this with the hope and the intensity to say, just make sure it keeps fucking untouched in the back of my mind, you know, in the back of my mind, in my subconscious. And that's like, they can't do that to wrestling because wrestling has no fucking grades. It's all dealt with on the mat. you know,
Yeah.
and that's the beauty of it, and that's why it can remain untouched. If it stays that way, then it will remain untouched. Do you know what I mean? And
Yeah.
that's the beauty of it. That's why I fucking love wrestling so much, because, you know, there's none of that hierarchical bullshit. You know, there's no long sword, short sword, fucking samurai armor, this, that, and the other. It's just straight there, isn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah, you just
Wrestling.
talk about what you've done or what you've won, what level you've competed at, and that says enough.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, 100%. You know, wins are wins, a loss is a loss, a belt's a load of shit. You know,
Yeah.
bullshit,
It's just, it's such a joke.
and it's such a shame.
Anyways. Yeah. It's,
Yeah.
I
Anyway,
can't wait to find out the
sorry, mate.
truth. No, it's all good. Anyways, let's wrap this up. But this has been enlightening. So we're going to trainingtonic.com, right? We're going to get our powder.
yeah.
Everybody's going to
Oh
go
yeah.
buy it. I'm fucking getting it today.
IHWA is making that our prime fucking supplement. That's going to be on there. It's going to be linked. There's going to be a link there to your website, and we're going to be chogging on that shit, bro.
Yeah, love it.
That's
It's such a
awesome.
great idea, man.
Yeah.
Such a great idea.
100%.
And and last thing, guys, let everybody know September 6th and 7th, I'm going to be in Bangor, Maine at Titan Fitness doing a 2-day camp. So if you are not a member of Titan Fitness, it's only $30 for the whole weekend. And of course, Sensei Eric Paulson's going to yell at me for giving it away. I don't care. I want as many people to learn catch wrestling as possible. So
yeah, well, he's not a black belt anyway, so I won't worry about it.
Yeah. He always tells me that I do my seminars too cheap, but I didn't set the pricing for this one. The most important thing is I'm just trying to expose as many people to catch the beauty of catch wrestling as possible. So whoever's out there, September 6th and 7th, if you are up in that area, the Northeast, come to the clinic. I'm also going to be available for privates that entire weekend. So whoever wants to come do a private and learn some spine locks so you can get fixed by Dr. Stephen Ramos after the fact, come and learn. And I promise I will wreck you. And then you will have to go get your physical therapy done. Yes, we're going to go to trainingtonic.com. Everybody get this stuff because I think it's going to change all of us for the better. And Les, enjoy your bike ride wherever you're at.
Yeah, I will do, mate. Yeah, I'm in the
back.
middle of, I think I'm going to be fighting Michael Myers in about 30 seconds where I am. But
I was
going to
say, man, be careful. It's looking dark out there.
It's all right. I'll get a gold, mate. Don't you worry.
All right, guys. This has been awesome.
I'll hit you up on Instagram, Stephen. All right.
Yes, perfect.
Yeah. Got it
all right,
for
brother.
All right, guys.
Nice one.
Thank you so much.
All right. Thanks, bro.